Welcome to the Peace and Possibilities podcast. This is Julie Bruns, and you are about to be inspired. I am so excited to share my conversations with amazing people from all walks of life who figured out how to be happy, peaceful, and content doing work they love and making the world a better place so that you can see what's possible for your life. I can't wait to hear what you think. Send me an email and let me know one thing you're taking away from this episode. And never forget, anything really is possible. All right, welcome to this episode, everyone. My guest this week is Emily Bossert. And Emily and I met several months ago. I was doing a call with her company, Compass.
Right.
And Emily and I kind of were kindred spirits. As soon as you got on the phone and you were doing that, like setting the intention and getting everyone like mellow and into the moment, I was like, I love that. I love that that was a company call and not just a regular like friend sitting on the phone, because it's important to do what you do. And you can talk about that more if you want. But then we chatted a little bit about some of the stuff we have going on personally and professionally. And I'm like, come on my podcast and talk. And you love what you do. And I love your energy and your light. And so I'm happy you're here today.
Thank you, Julie, so much for having me. When you asked me to come on to your podcast, to me, it was a unanimous yes. Just after interviewing you in our motivational group, the 6 a.m.ers at Compass, I knew I wanted to get you better. And I knew that you were making a difference in your own life and in others' lives. So thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, so let's jump right in. Tell everyone what you do now. And if you always saw yourself in this career, what was your trajectory, like going to school and just coming up and having experience and stuff? How did you see your life panning out? And is it this what you thought you'd be doing?
Sure. And absolutely not. That's the beauty and the mystery of life. So currently I am a sales manager for Compass Boulder. And I've been a sales manager for this brokerage for close to 3 years. And a lot of people say, what actually is a sales manager? And I think that to me, I would love to retitle all of us, because I don't love the title. To me, what I get to do every day is in the Boulder office, Boulder, Colorado, which is where I live. We have close to 115 agents, real estate agents. And what I get to do every day is to meet with them and help them, whether it's coaching, whether it's they have a contractual issue, whether they have a client that they need to really think of some really great solutions for, and they need to take a step back, and I can help them do that. I also get to help create a really wonderful culture. So my role is really incredible. And that's what I get to do all day long. Now, in terms of, was this where I thought I would be at the age I am at? Absolutely not. When I was a little girl, I wanted to be a veterinarian. And that was until I figured out the animals actually got sick and died. I just thought, you got to pet them all day long and make them happy, and they make you happy. But upon finding that out, I decided to change my trajectory. And dance was one of the things I really wanted. I wanted to be a ballet dancer, and my parents said, absolutely not. Their careers end at 30. What are you going to do after that?
Yeah.
So finally I brought to them, I said, I want to go into photography, as I was in high school. And this was back in the early 90s. And we had a dark room, and I loved photography. And it was one of the first creative endeavors I started experiencing with. And my parents were like, yes, you can do that. You can actually go into photography. So my whole, what I thought at such a young age of 18 or 19 was that I was going to be an Annie Leibovitz or an Ansel Adams and do that thing. And in college, in photography, Southern Illinois University in Carbondale, which you probably know, we had just this really incredible creative freedom, where 24/7, I was in a dark room and photographing, and it was lovely. However, the piece that was really truly missing was when we got out into the real world, they really hadn't taught us that, oh, well, you don't actually get to photograph what you want to photograph in the beginning. Other people, art directors, are going to tell you what they want you to photograph, and then you do that for them. So I did that. And long story short, was a photographer, commercial photographer, did a lot of other things. And just in a very, very strange way, found myself in real estate. And here I am today.
It's crazy. And I've never asked that question and had anyone say to me, yeah, it was like a straight line or a line up. I've never, when people say what their journey's been, it's never been like, yeah, I decided to be a doctor, so I became one. I guess I haven't had anyone on my podcast that did that. And maybe it's because I'm not drawn to them, or maybe they don't love it. I just haven't met someone like that. That was like, they probably are doing it. And then they're just too busy for me to actually meet them and know what they're doing and that they love it. But most people I talk to say, no, I never thought I would be doing this or this. And I'm thinking about it now for myself. I always saw myself doing what I'm doing. So I guess maybe I didn't not necessarily having a podcast and writing and all of that, but talking to people that I'm talking to is something I've always loved to do. I've always loved to talk one-on-one with people and get their stories and stuff. So I guess that's not all that surprising. Was it called a podcast 25 years ago? Probably not. No, it wasn't. No one even knew what they were.
Right.
Having conversations, but I get to hit record now and then share them with everyone. So that's a cool story. I knew that you liked photography, but but also probably, I'm guessing in the real estate world, there's always, people are taking pictures and making things look beautiful, and you're probably talking about staging houses. There's a lot of creativity to it that probably doesn't get talked about a lot, but hopefully you're able to use some of that too.
When I first got into real estate back in 2010, I joined this really incredible team here in Boulder, the Bernardi Real Estate Group, the Bernardi Group actually now. And I was the photographer for quite a while.
Okay.
And that was one of my favorite parts, because I would go in after the stager had been there and just look at the beautiful angles and create this story for people to basically, when the listing would come on the market, you would, if you were out of town or you were looking at images, first of all, it would take you through the home in this beautiful way. Mm-hmm. So I absolutely loved doing that.
Yeah, that's cool that you can still kind of do a little bit of that. I love also what you said about the sales manager, because I totally agree with you. I wrote down the words you use. You're coaching, you're helping people create, you're creating, I forget what you said about creating, and you're connecting people to the right thing with their clients and a way to look at the ideas and stuff. So it's like, it should be this, it's coaching, creating, and connecting manager or something. I totally agree. You're not really teaching people how to sell. You're teaching people how to connect with their clients so that they can have what they want and live the life they want and all of that. It's more, my sister said something like that to me. We were talking about selling and getting people to, buy what you want, or, just get clients and stuff like that. And I've never been comfortable with that aspect of it. And she said to me just very, very clearly, well, you're not selling, you're providing something of value to them that they need. It was just like this obvious thing, like, why are you even thinking about it that way? It's like, because other people have this negative connotation about it. She's like, but that's not it. You have something valuable that you're offering people. I'm like,
so true. And I've often thought of reaching out to our CEO, Robert Refkin, and maybe I will, and just say, hey, listen, all of us as sales managers, and maybe others don't feel this way, but the name of my career, my title does not align with what I do and offer.
It's not only is it not aligned in your mind, it's not really true. And
right.
And because my husband's in sales too, and he doesn't call himself a sales rep. I think it's account something, but it's just really because that's not all you do. There's so much, it's such a bigger thing. And you probably be doing a lot of, why not just ask? That's what it's all about, being what's possible, right? You have nothing to lose. And there's probably lots of people who would thank you. So this is what it is. That's I'm mentoring people every day, Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Okay. So let's talk about, so you had a photography career. You were in real estate. You've been in real estate for several years. What made you successful early on in climbing up the ladder? And obviously you can't just go from being you can't just get into real estate and be in sale, a manager right away. So what did you do to become successful and get promoted and all of that? How did that, and stay happy and peaceful along the way?
what a great question. And I did not stay happy and peaceful the entire way. Hence the reason I am where I'm at right now. It actually allowed me to change. So back in 2010, I was living in the Midwest and married to my ex-husband at the time, and we separated. And when that happened, I knew we had lived in a very small town. Oh, Midwest, Peoria, Illinois.
Yeah.
Small town. And I felt a very strong urge to get out of Peoria. And my yoga teachers that I was studying with, Richard Freeman and Mary Taylor, his wife, live here in Boulder. And I would come practice with them. And I've always said, since a young age, I've always said, I am going to practice whatever personal development piece I am looking to really elevate within myself. Mm-hmm. I want to stand on the shoulders of giants.
Smart.
I don't want to stand on the shoulders, and no disrespect for somebody who's been in teaching yoga for 1 year, but I want to learn from somebody who, like Richard and Mary, learned in the 60s and in the 70s, and they lived in India with Patabi Joyce. And to me, they're walking their talk. Those are the shoulders of the giants that I want to stand.
They're masters in what they're doing.
Masters. I want to learn from the masters. Yeah. Exactly. So I thought to myself, why are you living in the Midwest? Boulder is beautiful. So's the Midwest, but Boulder's new. It's beautiful. Your yoga teachers are there. And why not start anew at age 34? So young 34 Emily, who when I look back at her, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I would have done what I did, but I did. I did not have a job. Well, I left my job. Okay. I left pretty much everything except for my mattress. I got a brand new mattress, a dresser. I had a 16-year-old cat and a red VW bug. And I attached it to my U-Haul. And in the middle of a Midwest ice storm, which my U-Haul slid down my mom's driveway. That's how icy it was.
What month was it?
January.
Okay. Not a good time to be driving to Colorado.
No, not a good time at all. But I was determined to get here. And I didn't know anybody really here other than 2 people and then these yoga instructors. Okay. So when I moved to town, one of my goals was at this point in my life, I wanted to work for a strong and successful female. That's what I was looking for. And I happened to find this ad in Craigslist for a busy real estate company looking for, a staff member. And I ended up starting to work at the Bernardi Group. Little did I know at the time that she was the top realtor in Boulder County, and she was a very well-known realtor. And so I was learning from somebody who had really had it dialed in well. And I'm the type of person, and I don't know if this is Midwest stuff or just in general stuff, but I've always been the type of person, I don't need somebody to teach me. I want to watch them. So I would learn from osmosis. Like I would watch her in the sense that anything she was saying to a client, to myself, to anyone, I would pretend like she was speaking to me, and I would just take it all in. And over the years, I got so good at what I was doing that I just kept elevating in my career. And to the point where she would say, what do you want? You can have any role you want. What do you want to do? And I think that's, it was a moment of ownership. And I don't know when exactly it happened, but I remember at one point in my career, I would go to her and ask, is this okay? Did I do this okay? I always wanted her approval. And she finally, said to me, like, listen, you've got to take ownership here. And that was the moment that the light bulb went on in my head. And I realized, hey, I'm an adult. Yeah. I know what I'm doing. I, in fact, know better in a lot of these instances and situations with what needs to be done. And I took that ownership piece. And that's when my career just started taking a really strong trajectory path upwards, was when I started trusting my own voice and my own knowledge and my own tuition.
I love that. Trust your own voice, your intuition, and your knowledge. And she was telling you, so I'm sure you've already discovered this, but as you had said in the beginning about learning from the masters, you answered that Craigslist ad to work for a master. She was a master in her career, in her real estate, in her company. And you didn't know it at the time, but that's what you did. And you said to yourself, I want to work for a very strong, woman leader, and you did, and you had already told yourself, I want to work for people that are like already at the top of their game, and you were. And so what a great place to kind of insert yourself, you know, to look for, to say what you want and then go do it. And it's all right, here's where I am. And if you happen to be wrong, you could have made another decision, but you weren't. And she taught you all these little, probably subtle things, and you were directly, you know, absorbing all of her knowledge. But then when she said, take ownership, she was saying like, you already have this, but you're doubting yourself. And when you're doubting yourself, that's when you don't get what you want, or you make mistakes or whatever. It's you're already doing it. So sounds like a great leader, and already was like kind of mentoring you.
Oh yeah.
Inadvertently. And then when you were asking her a question, she was mentoring you directly, saying, take ownership, like just do it. Do what you already know, trust your voice, you know more than you think you know. And so you just need people along the way to say, you got this. You're already, you know, we have to, if we don't have people around us to do that, we have to do it for ourselves. But it's really nice when you can find someone who is interested in helping you in that way, that you trust, and that really does want to mentor you, because that makes it just a little bit easier. It's like doing it on your own is great for lots of reasons, but it's just be nice to have a little bit of that along the way to kind of boost you up and remind you what's important.
Well, Julian, I think about it, you know, in terms of when I'm working with, you know, maybe they're people that are younger than I am, and they're in the beginnings of their careers and they're doing these incredible things, but they too, I see myself in them when they say, am I doing this correctly? And to really be able to give them the power of ownership too, and to hand that down to them, to these generations younger than us, and say, listen, you've got this.
Yeah.
You can do this. And I want you, and one of the ways I love to do that is when somebody comes to me with a question and needs a solution, is to say, what would you do? What is your solution? Instead of just giving them the answer, have them tell you, what is your solve for this?
What are you already thinking? We do that with our kids. I've been doing that with them for years. They're, you know, early 20s. Even when they were 10, 12, what would you do? What would you do? Or I used to actually ask them when they would do something wrong and need to get punished or whatever, like, you know, little things. I would say, what would you, if you were the parent, what would you tell yourself?
Ooh.
And they always said the right thing. They always said, like, they were never like, well, I'd let my kid off the hook because of this. They'd say, I deserve, you know, I probably shouldn't be able to play video games, for whatever it was. Like, they always had, like, they want the consequence. Parents think, you know, I've talked briefly about this, but parents think, oh, I'm just going to, like, they need to be happy. No, they don't just need to be happy. Of course you want them to be happy, but they don't need to be happy. They need consequences. They need follow through. They need to know that there's a cause and effect for the things they do. Yes. And I never asked them, and they're 5 years apart, I never asked them that question, and they were like, let themselves off the hook ever. Because they had the wisdom already. And they, you know, even at 10 or 8 or whatever, they were like, they know in their bodies when they're doing something wrong and it doesn't feel right.
Oh, you better believe it.
Yeah. And then, so just building that trust earlier. And then now that they're in their 20s, it's funny because they'll usually now they'll already be working through that stuff before they come to my husband and myself to ask us questions. They've already covered a bunch of the stuff already, because they know to ask themselves those questions. Like, here's what I tried already. Here's what I'm going for. It's so nice. It's gratifying to be like, teach them that skill, and then just have them know that they have the resources. They can, you know, there's other people, like, and then we usually end up, all right, well, did you try this? No. Or have you thought about that? No, but I did think about this. Well, there's 3 other things you should think about too. Oh, okay. I didn't realize that, but it's such a great skill.
Yes.
And it's like you said, you're giving them ownership, and you're giving them a gift, because they're doubting themselves, but they really almost always, when you're asking a question, you know the answer already, personally and professionally, right? Right? You absolutely. You have wisdom, and of course you'd be able to help them tweak it a little bit or add a little bit of insight, but they almost always know. And it's such a much better way to lead people than to say, like, well, you should just do this. It's like, what are you teaching them?
Nothing. And isn't it true also, you think about, if we're in our heads all of the time and we're just listening to our own opinions, the minute we expand that to a community, whether it's you, Julian, I love that, asking your kids how would they, if they were the parent, what would they do? Then you guys can mastermind too, and brainstorm and come up with these ideas and solutions that one person on their own couldn't come up with as well.
Right. It's great. It's great.
Yeah.
That's why we need these mentors and coaches.
Oh, 100%.
For sure. Right.
Yes.
Okay, so what advice do you have? So obviously, so you're in this mentoring role, so you probably get this a lot. What advice do you have for people that you mentor, or even in your personal life, when people are searching for a meaningful career, or they're saying like, I'm not good at this, I want to do better at this, but I'm not good at this. What do you tell them when they're either their strengths aren't aligning with what they're doing, or they're doing well, but there's something that they're struggling with? What advice do you give them?
Another great question. And this is a question that I get a lot in real estate because there's a lot of comparison, comparing yourself to an agent on social media that might look like they have this incredible life and they're doing all of this business. And as we all know, comparison is the thief of all joy.
Yeah.
So usually when somebody comes to me with that, in this type of situation, whether it be a friend, a family member, or somebody that I'm mentoring, or an agent, it's usually a moment of asking them to get clear with their why, number one, because I think when we can't find our way, it's because we've lost our way a bit. Doesn't mean that we don't know what we want or what our why is. It just means that maybe we've been on this path and we saw this really great trail off path, but now we're off path and it doesn't feel right. Sometimes that off path does feel right, but most of the time we have this trajectory, this why, this inner passion that we're following. And if we lose that and we start comparing it to what other people's whys are, we realize, wait a minute, what they have in isn't actually what I want.
Right.
And that's one of the really big realizations that I think people can come back to is when they see themselves comparing themselves to something else, to first of all, get really quiet with your why, my why, and then to also go within again and trust your own voice. Usually in those moments where we feel lost, we're always looking externally. Who can help me? And yes, coaches and mentors are incredible to help us here, but also our insides, our inner truth is waiting to be asked these questions as well.
Yes.
And to guide us back home. So if we can get quiet and get focused, and I always say simplify at that point too, like clean up, clean house, metaphorically, literally, so that you have space to get clear on your why, clear on what it is that you're passionate about, and to get really quiet and listen to your inner guidance, your inner truth. And then, of course, it's also that other layer there, which I absolutely love, is to have a coach or have that mentor that you can reach out to and connect and brainstorm and mastermind and build this why and this passion of your life into something that's truly meaningful.
I love that. I love that. I love that you, the inner truth is waiting to your inner truth, your inner being is waiting to be asked the questions. And I don't think and I know that's not taught enough. I know it's not taught in business enough, but it's like, you can have the really good leaders do ask the right questions. And it's really a question to yourself. Like you're comparing yourself to this person on social media or someone that maybe it's something that you aspire to be, but really, why are you aspiring for that? Number one. Number two, no, number one is what you're seeing is probably not even real. Number two is, if you're wanting it, why are you wanting it? And what's the reason? Would you really like to have a successful business? Okay, then it's a successful business you should be concentrating on, not this other person who's probably not even really all that successful. But yeah, when you are asking other people, I don't know if you've ever heard of this. I talked about it several weeks ago, but it's called, I heard it on Amy Porterfield's podcast a couple of years ago. It's called, she's an entrepreneur and she coaches people into writing online courses and stuff, but it's only something she talked about, but it's not her tool, but it's called super thinking. And it's really like you just talked about, going back to yourself and asking yourself questions. So, so I did it for an hour. I did it not last summer, but the summer before, right before I actually finished my book, and sit down for an hour with just paper. So it's not your computer, it's not your phone. Your phone's off. You don't have access to anything technology speaking. So you sat on the couch with this journal, and every single question you have about your life or your business or your work, write the question down and then answer them.
Ooh.
And so this goes back to your, and I'm just getting chills thinking about it, but your inner, like you telling the people that you're mentoring to get quiet and your inner truth, your inner voice is waiting to be asked, because you almost always, like this is the theme of our other conversation here, you almost always have the answer, you almost always know what it is, but you have to do this for 1 hour. It's very painful because 15 minutes in, you're like, okay, I got some questions, it's good. I wrote some answers, but then you find yourself looking around. Like, I'm not a big social media person. So I'm like, but I wouldn't mind reading an article or reading a book or something in between. No, you can't pick anything up. So you just have to keep looking at your list and going back and answering. And if you don't have an answer to the question, go to the next one. And then when I was done, so I did it for an hour. That's the goal. And you have all these questions. I probably had 5 or 6 pages in my journal of the questions, and I just left spaces. And if I didn't have the answer, I'd go to the next one. And then an hour later, you're going back to all of them because now you have all this time and you can't distract yourself. You have to answer them. It's amazing what comes out of that 1 hour. Like, I don't have an hour. Well, yeah, you do. And you'd be surprised at the things that come up so quickly. Like, the answer's right there. You don't usually have to think a really long time about them. There's not very many that you have to go past because and you just write it down. And maybe if you have time, you go back and add something else, but it's amazing. It's all in here anyways.
It is. I love that. I absolutely want to try that practice.
Super thinking.
Yeah. Okay. Super thinking.
So
I love that.
I've only done it one time, and it's probably something would be good to do like at the beginning of the year when you're starting something new or whatever. But I don't really have a lot of big questions anymore because I know what I want in my life, but it was just a good way to, like, kind of, you said, get back to your why and what are you doing and why are you doing it? What's important to you? And it just solidifies all the stuff that you're working on and just grounds you. Like, what are you working for? And it's not a coincidence too, when you do that and you ask yourself those questions, when things get clearer, things get easier.
You better believe it.
Right?
It's amazing how that just happens.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like the path has been cleared. And we all say this. I mean, I've heard it from people time and time again. When I let that client go, all of a sudden, these incredible clients started flowing into my life. When I let this go, whatever it is, once you clear the path, it gets easier.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's great advice. And also something I don't think younger people are told enough. Like, they think I have to hang on to this thing and figure out how to fix it. And my husband's in sales too, same thing. It's like, it's not always worth your effort to convert that person into whatever it is you're trying to do. Letting it go. And then, is that someone, let's just say you conquer it. Is that someone you want to be connected to now?
Exactly.
Ever, is that someone you want to be referring you for new business? No, because chances are that person whoever they are buying the house, it's not working well with them. Chances are they're related to people very similar to them. Do you want to keep working with people like them? No, I know. Right.
Julie, another thing that I love to do as well, and this is something that has been really a wonderful practice for me, is to go visit my future self. And she always presents herself to me as this 75-year-old incredible Emily. Can't figure out exactly where she's at. She's somewhere tropical. And she's got this really great bungalow, but I visit her and I talk to her about what, it's really, it's super helpful for me to look from that perspective back to now. And to go, what do I need? What is my life going to look like up to that point to get me to that point? And I can start backtracking. And she has a lot of answers for me. So I also love doing that practice and suggesting that to people too, is to go meet your future self and see who they present themselves to you as. And if that's who you want to see yourself as at whatever age that is. And if so, ask them the questions. How did they get there? What did they do? What did they let go?
That's really good too.
Mm-hmm.
Someone was conversation I had a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about asking yourself in 6 months from now, what would you 6 months from now, would you, if you make the decision, what does your life look like 6 months from now? And if you don't make the decision, what's the converse of that? But also we talked a little bit about asking your older self too, looking back. So what would you tell your younger self? And then looking forward, what your future self, what would she say to you? And so it's like you have this guardian angel or godmother kind of, And it's really still you. It's just, like you said, you're getting clearer about your vision, and it makes it easier in the present to go for the things or do or say the things you want to say, because you're basing it on literally a way different perspective, a 25 plus year old perspective from where you are now.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's a great one. That's a great one.
Yeah.
Okay. So did we talk about, yeah, we did the meaningful career. All right. So I have a couple of, is there anything you wish you had learned earlier in your life or career? There's really something, some people say no, some people say there's definitively something. Usually people have a few things, but anything in your personal life or career that you were just like, I really would have loved to have learned that at 25 or whatever.
No. And the reason I say that is because at age 46 now, I think about all of my life lessons, and some of them I had to learn them very slowly and very painfully. They all make sense in due time.
Okay.
All of those lessons that took me longer than I wish they had taken are now and have presented themselves as, for instance, and I'll just give you an instance that's something because it is so present right now. Here in Boulder County, December 31st, we had the Marshall fires that burned down over 1,100 homes. And a lot of families lost everything, and a lot of animals were lost. It's just really, really sad. My husband and I lost 2 of our investment properties in the fire. We had 2 condos right next to one another, and they're gone. A realization that I had was, so when I was 19 and living in Illinois, my family's house burnt down to the ground. We lost everything, including 3 animals. And for so many years, I would say, why did this have to happen to us? And I had this realization very recently when these fires happened again, that I have a lot of empathy and understanding from what these families are going through right now, especially the teenagers, because I was a teenager at the time. And I can relate. And I feel like even though I would never, ever, ever want my family's home to burn down again, if I could change that, absolutely I would. There's a deeper understanding and there's a deeper calling now. There's a calling to help community and help people heal and to raise money and funds to take care of people who are in need right now and who are going to need to rebuild, who are underinsured. So there's a whole understanding now of, okay, this happened in my past. I wish it hadn't happened. However, it's now presenting itself 25 plus years later in a way that I can actually be of service to other people going through what they're going through. So no, I guess my answer is no. I don't think there's anything I wish I had learned sooner, because it all comes full circle in due time.
Yeah, you learn it when you're supposed to learn it. When they say what the teacher appears when the student's ready, or whatever that saying is. Yeah. Yes. The big thing for me is really, I don't even know if I've talked about this before, but the big thing for me really is just to trust. We've talked about, you and I, this whole time, really trusting myself more, because I knew a lot. I was very self-sufficient and independent, and you can read about that in my book and you could see examples of it, but I was always like, that doesn't sound right, or this doesn't feel right. I'm going to go look into this more. And so I was very resourceful in that way, but I was smart. I figured things out quickly. I was like, I saw things that didn't feel right and I was right about them not feeling right, whatever it was. But I wish I had trusted that more earlier in my life and career. Because I doubted myself a lot. I was like, I would pause, maybe not. And then I would do this instead. I'm like, no, I was right the first time. Damn it. Just more of that confidence, more of that, like, not even about being a girl, just, probably just the lower, just the self-doubt. And, it doesn't serve you. It's like, I'm not saying you shouldn't be thoughtful and think about, what you're working on or doing and proceed with caution or whatever, but, especially with women, we have a lot of intuition and wisdom. Even early on. I mean, I see that with young people all the time. Our younger son, especially, he's very intuitive, and he's like, he'll just pause and like, he was always, even young, really young, asking adult questions like, wow, this doesn't sound right. Or, and he would just pause and ask the adult when we were in the room. And I'm like, I'm kind of wondering the same thing. And he'd be like 8. And I'm like, wow, he would just had these, so I just think kids, I wish they were taught more about really trusting I mean, I'm not saying that they have all the answers, and the ones that are entitled and think that they don't have to do anything and they have all the answers, whatever. I'm not saying be
Right.
arrogant. I'm saying like, trust your gut, go back, go internal and ask yourself these questions and ask other people, because chances are what you're feeling is very aligned to what needs to be said or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, that's so wise,
Yeah.
Julie. I
Yeah.
love that you see that in your son. I mean,
Yeah.
these young souls have
He's
so
like,
much to teach us.
yeah, he's like an old soul. It's interesting. It's very interesting to see, but I'm sure you've come across kids that are like this too. It's like,
Yeah.
it's special. And,
Yeah.
but I think there's probably even more of it that you don't see, because kids are just usually taught, you know, like, you don't, whatever, they're told to be quiet or whatever it is.
Yeah,
Not
exactly. It's kind of pushed down or
Yeah.
repressed them. And then like you were saying, like that trust, you don't trust yourself as much, or you doubt yourself because of that, because you're not receiving the feedback from the adults
Right.
that what you're intuiting is correct.
What could I know? Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so final 2 questions for you. You can answer them in the order you want. Number 1 is, what's the greatest gift that you offer the world every day? So you have to brag a little bit. And the other one is, what's one thing you're taking away from our conversation today? Something new or, you know, whatever.
Okay, I'm going to answer that. The something new that I'm taking away, it's not new, it's a remembering. And it's really, Julie, when you said, you know, and I feel like this is something that I'm bringing with me to share out there with the younger generations, is to give them the gift of trusting themselves. And when you see, because we all see this in younger people, whether it's girls or boys, I see it more in females, but that's maybe because I've been around more females.
Mm-hmm.
They don't trust themselves, or they doubt themselves, or their insecurities. So I think what I'm going to take with me today, and I so appreciate that you said this, Julie, because when you said this, like the light bulb went on. Like, this is the gift that we can give to younger generations, that gift of, you need to trust your intuition. You're not always going to be right, but your intuition and your guide is there for a reason. How can we help you cultivate it to a place where it's confidence, not arrogance, but confidence? You're confident in who you are and what you have to offer the world.
I love that. So true.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially now, because it's not you can be educated and that's not going to give you confidence. You could be, you know, have a great job and that's not going to give you confidence. It's all of these other inner stuff that we're talking about that's really going to get you there.
That's right. And when somebody says to you, I remember when I was probably 14 or 15, and one of my friends said to me, "Oh no. Oh,
You're there.
Oh, okay. I lost you for some. Oh, there you are. Okay.
Yeah.
My computer just did a blip.
Oh.
When I was about 14, 15, 16, one of my best friends, a girl, said to me, I said, I want to be a marine biologist. And she said, you can't, you're not smart enough. And at that moment, I shouldn't have trusted her words.
Yeah. How did she know? She's only 15.
She's only 15. Exactly. So I forgive her.
Yeah.
Yes. And I don't remember, what was the first question?
So before I ask that last question, I want to comment about that exchange with the girl. She, like you said, she was probably like, first of all, she doesn't know, but we used to tell our kids this too. And they would ask, especially like, I remember around 10 years old, our older son, he would like ask questions and he'd come home and say, so-and-so said this. And we're like, well, they don't know anymore. First of all, you don't know the answer. And you're asking someone else the same age who's 10 who also does not know the answer. So stop asking other 10-year-olds questions that you don't know the answer to. So either ask yourself or ask someone older, i.e. us, because we know already. But I'm like, I just remember this exchange. My husband and I looked at each other. I'm like, Laura, stop asking them questions. They don't know anything. Ask your teacher or ask us or ask other teachers. Stop asking, especially other 10-year-old boys, because they don't know anything about the questions you're asking. And I'm not saying that I couldn't be smart or whatever, but I'm like, oh my gosh, like, so it's like this 15-year-old girl's like, you're not smart enough. And that's probably coming from her father. Said that to her about something else. Or she heard that from someone, nothing to do with you. But you, like you said, you remember it and it sticks with you and you're like, huh, am I? And then you start questioning things. You're like, this is ridiculous. Like, we should be banned from having conversations like this with teenage girls and boys, right? Like, should be like only other things like that are innocuous and don't matter at all, because these little things stick in your memory, in your
For
craw, and then you have to,
decades.
yeah, it's just a crappy feeling.
And they become these limiting beliefs that sometimes we don't even know. They're
Right.
blind spots for us. We don't even know that we're acting with that filter.
Yep.
Or we just don't even question them because we were at a young age where we didn't know any better than to question. Maybe we didn't know any better to not
Yep.
question things. And so we just took it as truth instead of questioning it. So
You're right. We don't know to question, especially people that have the self-doubt and not the confidence. And that was more of me. My husband was kind of the opposite, where he would question things more. He just had more of this confidence, or I don't know what, that's probably the best word to call it. But you're like, we don't know to question it. So we just assume it's true. And I think girls do that a lot more often than boys.
yeah.
And the confident ones just go, maybe I will. Yeah. How do you know? I can totally do that. But it's
Right.
not so often that you see girls do that. And it's too bad.
It is too bad.
So the final question was, what's the greatest gift that you offer the world every day?
Oh, gotcha. Yes. Well, I feel very lucky because I can see, with a lot of people, I'm able to see what is either, I guess, not missing, but the potential, the untapped potential in people's lives, and where their own blind spots or limiting beliefs might be. So I feel like my gift is really sitting one-on-one with people in a mentorship or coaching type role, and being able to really tease out their stories, the true stories from the false stories, and then begin to help them rebuild a really meaningful and fulfilling life from their truths and their desires.
Ooh.
And I feel so lucky to be able to, and I think I've always been a really good listener and an empath. So I'm able to sit there like almost like I am them and go, wait.
That is a gift.
This is what you're missing. And I'm not always right, but I
Right.
feel like I have a really good knack for it.
That's awesome. That is an awesome gift, because it's not just, because sometimes being an empath can be draining.
Oh yeah.
My friend and I talk about this a lot, because I consider myself like that too. And I get feelings about things, but mine is not as much as a teasing out and helping other people, but I get that I take on negative energy. And
Yeah.
it's hard for me not to notice when someone's in pain in a room.
Oh,
Like my
yeah.
husband would be like, how did you even, I'm like, this is not, I can tell over there, this situation's not good or whatever. And and then I can't stop thinking about it, or I have to turn away, because I'm like, then I want to go over and help. And it's like, my husband's like, well, you're not even sure, and I'm like, no, I can, yeah, I can tell by their facial expressions, by everything going on. It's like, it's not right, or that person's not happy, even if they're not saying anything. And it can be not even a detriment. It's just like, it's draining, because you want to do something about it, and you can't necessarily always do something about it, nor is it your business or whatever it is. Right.
Sometimes people don't want to heal,
And exactly.
or to even confront what you can see as an impact that's going on.
That's why you're in a good role, because you're in a role where people want it, because they want to build their careers and they want to be more successful. So it's a win-win for you. You're good at it, and you're around people that are looking for that guidance. So you get to use your superpower for good, instead of just saying like, okay, I can't fix anything, and now I'm just stuck here with this thing I know now. What am I going to do with it?
I try to wait until somebody asks. I try without permission. I don't like to push. There have been times, like with family members, where I've seen things that I feel like I could nudge them, and it just hasn't worked out well. So if somebody asks and invites me in to help them see, the work can begin.
That's so smart too, because when they're asking and inviting you in, that means the student is ready. And if they haven't asked, right, they're ready for the teacher. If they haven't asked, it's because they're not ready for the message yet. And they probably can feel that you might know it, and they're not asking because they don't want to know it yet.
So true, Julie.
Right? Like, I'm not going to talk to her because she's going to tell me something I don't want to hear yet. So I'm not asking the question.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh,
that's an awesome gift. And you're in a great role for it, because you get to help build and mentor and guide, and then watch them flourish and watch them get the things, like you said, like whatever their why is, you get to watch them figure that out, and then probably really flourish and thrive after that.
It's a beautiful thing to see. And what I love, and I think this is really interesting in real estate, I'll have agents come to me and say, I didn't know we could talk about these things in real estate. And I say, this is life.
Yeah.
we're coaching for life. We're
Yeah.
talking about life. It's
Right.
not just wrapped up in how many listings you're getting, what your gross commission income is. We're talking life here.
Yeah.
Yes, it's all open to be discussed.
Yes, it's all, yeah, because it's all one thing feeds on the other. That you can't
Totally.
separate them out. I was talking to someone about work-life balance recently, and it's like it's really not. It's not even fair to call it that, because it's really just what are you putting your energy in? What are you focusing on? What, like it's
Yeah,
all tied together, and it's like saying that you can do both of them and have them look like this, and it's like no, they're intertwined,
totally.
especially now. So I'm glad that we're having conversations like this, because especially in this time, because it's more easy to consider these things than it was a couple of years ago before the pandemic. Everything has been so much more enmeshed that you don't
Yes,
really have a choice but to look at all of them together,
that's right.
both those things together. Well, it's been so fun talking to you and hearing more about your story. I really appreciate you coming on to the podcast.
Julie, I am so glad we met. This
Me
has been
too.
such a pleasure. And now I feel like we've come full circle, where we have gotten the pleasure of interviewing you, and now we flipped it. And I just think this is just such a wonderful way to start and kick off 2022.
Thank you. I agree. And I can't wait for everyone to hear your advice. And I wrote down a lot of cool things you said, so you'll see them in the notes, and it'll be fun to revisit. So if anyone wants to, do you want to promote anything? Do you want to talk about how to get in contact you, or if anyone's in Boulder?
If anybody's in Boulder and wants to contact me, I'm at Emily, EMILY .Bossert, BOSSERT @compass.com. Realtors or otherwise, it doesn't matter. I think the world needs more connection and communication. So reach out if you'd like to.
I love it. Thank you. All right. Bye, everyone. I hope you're inspired today. I know you will be. Take
Bye,
care.
everyone.
Thanks for listening. I hope you loved this episode. Don't forget to like us, subscribe, review, and share it. I hope you were truly inspired. And for a little more inspiration, don't forget to pick up my book, Peace, Possibilities, and Perspective: 8 Secrets to Serenity and Satisfaction in Your Life and Career. I can't wait to get you love in your life.